Today is Monday, February 6th, and this is the ADM Investor Services Weekly Market Kickoff. Please note that the views and opinions expressed here today are solely those of our guests and should not be construed as the views or opinions of ADM Investor Services or ADM. Today's guests are Mark Soderberg, ADMIS Senior Ag Analyst, and Alan Bush, ADMIS Senior Financial Economist. Starting with the grains this morning, Mark, what are you expecting from the USDA reports this coming Wednesday?
Domestically, not much. Wire services are reporting an average trade guess of about a 25 million bushel increase in corn ending stocks, probably from lower exports. Personally, I don't think we'll see any changes this month. My guess is the USDA will wait another month to see if this recent uptick in exports and ethanol production will continue. Same with soybeans and wheat. I look for ending stocks to remain unchanged at 210 million bushels on beans and 567 million bushels for wheat. And that's pretty consistent with the average trade guess going into Wednesday's reports. All of the excitement, I believe, from Wednesday will be from the South American production estimates. I don't think we're going to see any changes to Brazil's record corn or soybean forecasts this month. Harvest so far in the northern parts of the country, they've seen record yields, but it has been a little bit of a slow go due to persistent wet conditions. While we're also experiencing some dryness in the south. So I look for the USDA to wait another month before making any changes here in Brazil. In Argentina, where rains really from the middle part of January have improved crop prospects. I think it came a little too late to help the earliest planted crops. So I look for about a 2 to 3 million metric ton reduction in both corn and soybean production there.
Mark, did you see events over this past weekend with the U.S. military shooting down the Chinese surveillance balloon having any impact on the agricultural markets?
Probably not, at least in the short term. Chinese-U.S. relations have been lukewarm at best for the last couple of years. China has already switched over their soybean purchases for spring and summer months to Brazil due to cheaper prices. Any new soybean sales to China from the U.S. over the next several months are likely to be for a new crop or fall delivery. Right now, there's just over 330 million bushels of outstanding soybean sales to China and unknown buyers, a historically large figure. So these are going to be monitored closely over the next several months to see if these are actually shipped, canceled, or rolled forward to new crop. And in corn, recall last fall, China signed an agreement with Brazil to begin importing their corn. These imports have kicked in recent months. So I think that reduces the chances of large soybean or corn purchases from the U.S. this spring. But one thing I know for certain is that of 1.4 billion people in China, they need to eat. And I think any shortfall in supply coming from Brazil or Ukraine, that's going to have to come from the U.S. So the events from this past weekend do not change that.
Lastly, Mark, it did touch on the weather in South America. What's the outlook down there, and how are the crops doing?
All in all, pretty good, very good. In fact, in Brazil, this week returns to a warm, dry outlook in Argentina before some rains return again this coming weekend. So I look for crop conditions to decline again this Thursday in Argentina. In Brazil, we'll just continue to monitor harvest progress. Rains appear to be lightening up, so I think it's going to be a pretty active week here for the next several in getting their soybeans harvested and second corn crop planted.
Thank you. Alan, flipping to the financial markets, what's potentially the main market moving event this week?
Okay, by far, it appears the most likely market moving event will be tomorrow when Fed Chair Powell at 11:40 Central Time will deliver a speech to the Economic Club of Washington. So traders will be closely watching for clues about how much more the central bank may tighten financial conditions. Last Wednesday, at the conclusion of the Fed's policy meeting, Powell's comments at the press conference were thought to be a little bit dovish on balance. However, things have changed a little bit since then. In light of Friday's employment report, some traders believe that Powell's comments may be more on the hawkish side tomorrow, and I think that is likely to be the case.
And with rates moving higher, there seems to be more interest in the currency markets. What is the best way to trade the US dollar index from your perspective?
Okay, for right now, today, in advance of Powell's speech tomorrow, the dollar index will probably continue to advance. His hawkish or likely hawkish comments are supportive to the dollar. So I think that will continue today and probably into the first part of tomorrow. But once his speech is out of the way, I think that we'll probably see the dollar index coming under pressure again as interest rate differential expectations still are basically offsetting. So for the most part, look for gains through today into tomorrow, and then selling pressure for the dollar after the speech has concluded.
Lastly, Alan, how will the stock index futures and the interest rate market futures react to Fed Chair Powell's speech tomorrow?
So I think the logic is the same for the interest rate futures markets as in the stock index futures as well as for the dollar index, and that is everything seems to be keying on Powell's speech tomorrow. So that would mean lower prices continuing near term today into the speech for the stock index futures, and probably pressure on the interest rate market futures in advance of the speech. Once the speech is out of the way, I think the stock index futures will recover. And I think the main trend for the interest rate futures markets will come back in focus, which would be higher prices after the speech is over across the board for the interest rate futures markets.
Thank you both. Remember, the views and opinions expressed today on this video are solely those of our guests and should not be construed as the views or opinions of ADM Investor Services or ADM. If you'd like more information about our brokerage services, would like to speak to one of our experts about managing your risks, or would like to open a trading account, please visit www.admis.com.